let's talk about the 3 levels of change in coaching. And this model or this concept has been something that's been recognized in coaching for a long time now, which is that through the last 25 years, there's been an evolution of coaching. And when we look at the literature of coaching, we tend to look at 3 main levels of change that coaching is responding to. So the first one is performance level of change. You might have heard of the GROW model. Anyone heard of the GROW model? It's a very simple coaching model. So it was great in its day when coaching first started to be recognized as a separate profession or a separate skill. The GROW model was really the model. Almost every coach used a GROW model. It was a good, simple model, but it is really like a set of stabilizers on a bike. You know, when you're a little child and you have stabilizers and it stops you falling off, but at some point you take those off and you have to ride solo without the stabilizers. That's the GROW model. GROW model is super simple structure to follow. When I first started doing life coaching as a coach, rather than the work I was doing with police officers and stuff, my first ever client was a Japanese lady, and she wanted to find a boyfriend, and I was very much brought up on the GROW model way of doing it. So I said to her, okay, so what's the goal? And she was like, find a boyfriend. And I was like, okay. Let's make the boyfriend smart, as in not smart, but smart goal setting. Let's be specific. What kind of boyfriend? No, I did not. That is such bad, naughty advice. So I said, okay, let's be specific. Let's be measurable. How do you know you've got a boyfriend? That's usually quite obvious, but is it achievable? Is it relevant? Is it time bound? I did all that kind of stuff, and so we kind of got this idea of who this boyfriend was going to be. And I was like, okay, so where are you now? Classic GROW model coaching. Reality. Where are you now? And she said to me, I don't have a boyfriend. So yeah, okay. What have you done about getting a boyfriend? Nothing. I said, okay, so moving to the O of GROW, options. What will you do? So do you remember I said earlier about how most coaches are very focused on the doing? That was what it was, but that's how we were brought up, if you like, as a coach. That's what I did. What will you do? So she said to me, I said, what could you do? And she went, internet dating. And back then, internet dating was still like, you know, the Wild West where only dodgy people hung out. So I said, great, okay, internet dating. And I said, what else? And she went, that's it. And I said, okay, so imagine 20 years ago, before the internet existed, what would you do then? And she went, blind dating in a newspaper. So I was like, great, okay, blind dates in a newspaper. And I said, what else? And she went, that's it. I was like, I can't give advice and I can't steer her. So I was like, where do men hang out? She's like, oh, I could go to a walking group. So we ended up with this kind of big list. I was like, what will you do? So she said, internet dating. I was like, oh, this GROW model just doesn't work. Like the reality of it is, like people have a very set idea of a journey, and unless you can dig deeper into their values, expectations, or assumptions, you just get stuck. So performance coaching, very much the focus of GROW model, is all focused on the goal, the outcome. But very quickly, as any coach knows, you soon see that performance coaching, it only touches the top level of somebody's change. Truth is that change happens at a different level. So then within the coaching profession, around about year 2000, 2003, there emerged this concept of developmental coaching, which was the idea that as a client within coaching, you were in a state of learning about yourself, learning about the world, learning about other people, learning about how you could apply skills, etc., etc. And the focus of coaching and developmental coaching became learning. What are you learning from this journey? So if you're doing, you might start off with performance style coaching, but you're then saying as part of the journey as well as goals, it's what's your learning, what's your growth, what's your capacity that's being built as a leader, as a partner, as a business owner, as somebody who's trying to get healthy. How are you going to sustain this for the rest of your life rather than just lose? You talked about, you know, losing 5 pounds now or whatever it might be. How do you change? How do you learn about yourself? How do you learn about what it is to eat well and to exercise well and all this kind of stuff? But even that gets stuck within the existing paradigm. What are you learning about operating within the existing paradigm of beliefs you have? And so then the third level, which came, weirdly enough, in some ways you could say it started at the same time as this, but it wasn't thought of as coaching. There was something called transformative learning by a guy called Jack Mesereau, who was a theorist of learning. He talked about transformative learning. And really that's transformational coaching, where the focus is on the paradigm shift. The paradigm being the sort of unique collection of assumptions, beliefs, the ways you see the world. Like let's see if I can make this into a diagram. Yeah. So if I kind of do a little person here, and then they're looking at a situation here, let's say they're looking at a person, and this person's there, can everyone see this? This person's their boss, let's say, and they're kind of like, very sad about this boss. And so what they do is they start doing is they take actions about this boss. They communicate differently or whatever it might be, and they're taking actions towards how they manage the situation. Now what we do when we start doing transformational coaching is we go like, hold on a second, you've got a pair of glasses on. They might not be real, but you've got a pair of glasses on that interpret the world around you. And as a transformational coach, we're going to take a look at not this or these, but this. We're going to take a look at the glasses you're wearing, because the glasses you're wearing is the thing that's making you see the boss in a very different way from somebody else, or to interact with the boss in a way that's different from somebody else. What are these glasses? How are they part of the problem? And once we start to say, well, that's the challenge, we can then affect how this happens. Make sense? So that's transformational coaching, and it's the paradigm shift. How do we shift the set of beliefs that exist within that? Any questions or thoughts on those three levels? You like my?
It's really cool.
Well, the actual picture. You can have it if you like. I'll sign it for you afterwards. Any other thoughts on that, guys? Or is that pretty straightforward? Because I know that some of you said you wanted to understand what transformational coaching was as opposed to normal coaching. Does that feel clearer now? That you're looking at the actual filter, you're looking at the lenses that person's wearing that colours the world the way they see it. Better?
Give an example with frogs.
Yeah, I was going to, but it always confuses, it can confuse people, but I will then. Since you brought it up, it would be unfair, wouldn't it, not to? So I sometimes give the example of the frog in a pot that's going to be boiled to death. Have you heard this analogy of the frog in the pot? So the idea is that if you put a frog in boiling water, it will jump out really quickly. But if you put a frog in cold water and then heat the water slowly, it will boil to death because it doesn't notice the temperature changing until it's too late. So my little analogy was, let's say you get a very smart frog who's like, uh-oh, I'm in some water and it's about to start getting hot. I'm going to go to a coach. Well, if they go to the performance coach, the coach is going to help them jump faster and quicker and longer to get out of that pot. But once out of the pot, the coach's job's done. Contract ticked, yep, I'm sorted. Frog's out of the pot, that's it. When you start thinking about the developmental coach, the frog's going, I need to get out of this pot, but I also want to learn how not to fall into another pot. Like, how do I make sure that the things that led me to fall into this pot don't happen again? That's developmental coaching. What do I need to learn about what put me here in the first place that means I don't fall into that pot again? However, when you go to a transformational coach, the coach helps the frog see that they created the pot in the first place. And that's the difference. The situations that you're facing typically are ones that you've created for yourself in some way. Doesn't mean there isn't a real world out there that has impact on you. Doesn't mean we don't need to do things out here, that it's all in here. But there's something about how we're seeing and operating in the world that creates this reality. And the transformational coach is saying, well, let's look at that first before we look at that. That's the difference. Is that right? So they might start here. They might start with a performance issue. Now, if you're the kind of coach that's very happy to have, carry the whole continuum, then you might say, great, I'll do performance coaching. Like, I don't do performance coaching. It's just not who I am anymore. So if somebody came to me with what seemed like a performance goal, I'd be like, it's just not me. However, it could be that as a performance coach, you then start to realize this isn't a performance issue. It's a developmental or a transformational issue. Then it's about making sure you're recontracting psychologically, if you like, with the client to say, hey, this isn't the work we thought we were doing. Are you okay to do a different kind of work? So that's shifting. So you might start off going, yep, we'll get you to this goal. And you go like, hold on, the goal's not really the issue here. So you go through a process of recontracting. Recontracting doesn't mean, it's not as technical as it sounds. It doesn't mean you're kind of getting a piece of paper. It just means you're saying, hey, this isn't quite the work we expected. Do you want to do a different kind of work, which feels more effective? Now, however, in my case, people do come to me for this work. They know who I am as a coach. They come to me for this. I don't say paradigm shift. I mean, paradigm shift is like the theoretical phrase for it. I don't say, hey, we're going to achieve a paradigm shift for you. but what I will say is, like, we'll explore what's going on for you, your inner world, that's making this be your current reality. And people get that, and they're comfortable with that. And they also don't expect that there's some silver bullet. Actually, that's not true. I had a client recently, actually, who very much did expect a silver bullet from it. And she was quite disappointed by my coaching. By the second session, we agreed not to work together because it just wasn't working for her. She literally said she wanted to unravel about 40 years of life in 3 sessions and overcome some abuse that she'd had, and that she felt that 3 sessions was more than enough. I was like, my experience is it's not, and I don't feel that's the work I can do with you, and we had to agree not to do it. So, but it's about naming it. It's about having the courage together, both of, because I liked her courage. I liked the fact she was being really upfront with me. So she was courageous, I was courageous to go, hey, we shouldn't be doing this work. There's a sort of contracting phase, what I call the psychological contracting phase, which is are we on the same page together? For me as an individual coach, I am interested in how does that person make sense of the world as it really is. So yes, the world is concrete, but the way we experience that concreteness is different. So I'm interested in how do they experience the world. If they think that Trump being president is a significant issue for them, it's a significant issue for them. If they think it doesn't affect them, it doesn't affect them. So yes, the world really exists, but in the end, it's how you filter that that's going to be the thing that I'm interested in. But that doesn't mean it denies that this stuff matters, that's for sure.